When I was young, my grandfather once told me something that completely shocked me. He looked at me calmly and said, "Never save money." I could not believe those words. Everywhere in the world, people teach us to save money for the future, to protect ourselves from hard times, and to feel secure. But my grandfather smiled and explained, "Do not just save money. Learn how to make money grow." At first, I did not understand him. I thought saving money was always the smartest choice. But then he began telling me about his own life. He said there was a time when he believed that keeping every coin hidden away would solve all his problems. He worked hard, lived simply, and saved every little bit he could. Yet no matter how much he saved, life still felt difficult. Prices increased, needs grew, and the money disappeared faster than he expected. My grandfather finally realized something important. Money sitting still does not change your life. It only waits. But when money is used wisely, to build something, start something small, or create opportunity, it can grow like a seed becoming a tree. That lesson changed the way he saw the world forever. He taught me that dreams alone are not enough, and saving alone is not enough either. Real success begins when we take action and learn how to make even a small amount grow into something bigger. In a quiet little village, there lived an old man who was known by everyone as lazy. Every morning, while other villagers worked hard in the fields or sold goods in the market, he sat under a large tree near the road. He spent hours watching the clouds move across the sky and dreaming about becoming rich someday. He often spoke about his big plans. "One day I will open a shop," he would say proudly. Other times he imagined buying cows, owning land, or living in a large, beautiful house. His dreams sounded wonderful, but there was one problem. He never took action. Days became months, and months became years, yet nothing in his life changed. At first, people laughed at him because his dreams were bigger than his effort. Later, they stopped laughing and began feeling sorry for him. His wife worked tirelessly every day to support the family. She cooked meals, cleaned the small house, washed clothes, and tried her best to keep hope alive. Meanwhile, the old man continued sitting under the tree, waiting for a better future to magically appear. One evening, his wife spoke to him softly but honestly. She said, "Dreams are beautiful, but dreams alone cannot feed a family." The old man lowered his head and quietly replied, "Someday I will find a way." But deep inside, he knew the truth. Dreams without action are only wishes, and wishes alone can never change a person's life. Life in the old man's house became harder with each passing day. The dreams he once spoke about so confidently had brought no food, no comfort, and no better future for his family. His wife worked from morning until night, trying to keep the household together. She cooked whatever little food they had, cleaned the tiny home, washed clothes by hand, and carried the burden of survival on her tired shoulders. As time passed, money almost disappeared completely. Some nights the family ate only a few beans or dry bread. Other nights there was nearly nothing at all. The old man began to notice the sadness in his wife's eyes, but he still did not know how to change his life. One cold evening, his young grandson slowly walked toward him. The little boy was thin, barefoot, and hungry. In a soft voice, he asked, "Grandpa, do we have any bread?" The question pierced the old man's heart like a knife. The grandmother quietly opened the cupboard, hoping to find something small to give the child. But the shelves were empty. No bread, no rice. Nothing remained. The room fell silent. For the first time in many years, the old man truly felt ashamed. Tears filled his eyes as he looked at his hungry grandson. At that moment, he understood a painful truth. Dreams alone cannot feed a family. Wishing for a better life means nothing without action. That night, he could not sleep. His empty stomach hurt, but the pain in his heart was even stronger. Deep inside, something finally began to change. The morning after that painful night, the old man woke up before sunrise. For the first time in many years, he no longer sat under the tree dreaming about a better future. Instead, he quietly put on his worn shoes and walked toward the fields to look for work. The journey felt heavy. He was not young anymore, and his body was weak from years of doing nothing. Still, the image of his hungry grandson stayed in his mind. He knew he could no longer live only on empty promises and dreams. Soon, he found work as a field laborer. The job was harder than anything he had imagined. Under the burning sun, he carried heavy tools, dug dry soil, and worked for endless hours. Sweat covered his face, his back ached constantly, and his hands became rough and painful. Every step felt exhausting, but he refused to give up. At night, he returned home completely tired. His wife prepared simple meals with whatever little food they had, sometimes beans, sometimes a small piece of bread, and sometimes almost nothing at all. Yet despite the hardship, something inside the old man had changed. For the first time, he felt that he was trying. One evening, his grandson asked him softly, "Grandpa, what did you earn today?" The old man opened his hand and showed a few small coins. "It is not much," he said with a tired smile, "but it is honest work." Although the money was small and life was still difficult, the old man finally understood an important truth. Real change begins the moment we stop waiting and start acting. Months passed, and little by little, the glass jar beneath the old man's bed began to fill with coins. Every time he dropped a coin inside, the soft clinking sound made him feel proud and hopeful. To him, the jar represented safety, stability, and a promise that one day his family would finally escape poverty. The old man worked tirelessly in the fields, saving every extra coin he could. His family continued making sacrifices. His shoes were old and full of holes, but he refused to replace them. His wife repaired torn clothes instead of buying new ones. Even their meals became smaller because the old man believed the future was more important than comfort today. One afternoon, after many months of saving, the old man finally decided to use the money. He carefully carried the heavy jar to the village market, feeling excited for the first time in years. He placed all the coins on the shopkeeper's table and proudly said, "I would like to buy 3 sacks of corn." The shopkeeper slowly counted the money, then looked at him sadly. "I'm sorry," he said, "but prices have gone up. This amount can only buy 1.5 sacks now." The old man stood frozen in silence. His heart sank with disappointment. All those months of sacrifice suddenly felt meaningless. He had worked hard, saved carefully, and denied himself basic comforts. Yet the value of his money had quietly disappeared over time. That day, the old man learned a painful but important lesson. Money sitting still does not always stay strong. Sometimes, while we protect money, life and prices continue moving forward without us. After the disappointing day at the market, the old man returned home feeling defeated. He sat quietly outside his small house, staring at the dusty road while the evening sun slowly disappeared behind the hills. For months, he had believed that saving money alone would solve his problems. But now he understood that the world kept changing while his coins stayed the same. As he sat there thinking, he noticed his neighbors passing by. One man carried fresh eggs in a basket. Another walked with bottles of milk to sell in the village. Their clothes were simple, but their faces looked peaceful. They did not seem trapped by fear or constant worry like he was. The old man suddenly realized something important. Those people were not simply saving money. They were using what they had to create more value. Their animals and products continued producing food and income every day. A small idea began to grow in his mind. He turned toward his grandson and quietly asked, "What if we buy chickens?" The boy's eyes immediately filled with excitement. For the first time in years, the old man did not wait for someday. The next morning, he took the money he had saved and bought a few thin chickens from the market. At first, the neighbors laughed softly at the tiny flock. But the old man no longer cared about embarrassment. He cared about opportunity. Soon the chickens began laying eggs. Some eggs were eaten by the family, while others were sold for extra money. Little by little, hope returned to the house. The old man finally understood a powerful truth. Money grows only when it is used to create something greater than itself. The small group of chickens soon became the beginning of a completely new life for the old man and his family. At first, the chickens looked weak and thin, and the family did not expect much from them. But every morning, the grandson excitedly ran outside to check the little coop behind the house. One day he shouted happily, "Grandpa, there's an egg." The old man smiled as he carefully picked it up. It was only one egg, but to him, it felt like a sign of hope. A few days later, there were 2 eggs, then 3. Slowly, the chickens began producing more than the family needed. The old man and his wife decided to eat some eggs and sell the rest in the village market. The money they earned was small at first, but this time something felt different. Instead of disappearing immediately, the money returned again and again through the chickens. Soon, The old man used part of the profits to buy another chicken, then another. Little by little, the small flock started growing. He even carried a tiny notebook in his pocket and carefully wrote down every egg sold and every coin earned. For the first time in his life, he was building something instead of only dreaming about it. Neighbors who once pitied him now came to buy fresh eggs from his house. The atmosphere inside the family changed too. There was more laughter, more energy, and more hope. The old man finally realized that true wealth does not come from hiding money away. It comes from using money wisely to create something that continues growing long after the first coin is spent. One quiet morning, the old man stood outside holding a fresh egg in his hand. The sunlight touched his tired face as he looked at the small egg carefully, almost as if it were something priceless. His grandson ran beside him happily, laughing and feeding the growing flock of chickens. The little house that once felt heavy with sadness was now slowly filling with hope. The old man smiled and said softly, "This egg is more powerful than a jar full of money." The boy looked confused and asked, "How can one egg be so important, Grandpa?" The old man sat beside him and explained, "Money can disappear. Prices rise, problems come, and saved coins slowly lose value. But when money is used wisely, it can create something that keeps growing." He pointed toward the chickens scratching the ground near the fence. "These chickens give us eggs every day. The eggs give us food and income. Then that income helps us buy more chickens. This is how small things become big things." The grandson listened carefully while the old man continued speaking with emotion in his voice. "For many years, I wasted my life dreaming without action. Then I believed saving money alone would protect us. But now I understand the truth. Wealth is not built by hiding money. Wealth is built by creating something that continues producing value." The boy hugged his grandfather tightly and asked with a smile, "So you are not lazy anymore?" The old man laughed quietly, tears shining in his eyes. "No, my child," he replied. "I finally learned that the secret to life is not simply saving money. It is learning how to make money grow." From that day forward, the old man became a completely different person. The man who once spent his life sitting under a tree dreaming without action now woke up early every morning with purpose and energy. His small chicken business continued growing, and with every egg sold, his confidence grew as well. People in the village slowly began noticing the change. The same neighbors who once called him lazy now respected him. Some even came to ask for advice about raising chickens and earning extra income. The old man always smiled humbly because he remembered the painful years when he had nothing but empty dreams. One evening, he gathered his grandson beside him and shared the most important lesson of his life. He said, "Saving money alone is like trying to hold water in your hands. Slowly, it slips away. But when you use money wisely to build something, it becomes stronger and grows over time." The grandson listened carefully while the old man continued speaking with wisdom earned through hardship. "I wasted many years waiting for success to come by itself. Then I believed a jar of saved coins would save us. But real change only started when I invested in something small and worked patiently to help it grow." The old man looked proudly at the chickens walking around the yard and smiled warmly. What started with only a few birds had transformed their lives completely. There was now food on the table, hope in the house, and dignity in his heart. From then on, he shared the same message with everyone he met. Do not only save money. Learn how to make it grow. Even the smallest beginning can change your future forever. Years later, the old man's story became an inspiration to many people in the village. What once began as a life filled with laziness, empty dreams, and poverty had turned into a life of wisdom, hard work, and growth. He was no longer remembered as the man who sat under a tree all day doing nothing. Instead, people now saw him as someone who learned from failure and changed his future through action. The old man often sat outside his home in the evenings, watching his chickens move around the yard while his grandson played nearby. Those simple moments reminded him how far he had come. He understood that success did not arrive overnight. It started the moment he stopped waiting for miracles and decided to take responsibility for his life. Whenever young people asked him for advice, he shared the lesson that transformed him forever. He would say, "Do not spend your whole life only saving money and hoping things improve. Money hidden away slowly loses power. But money used wisely can create opportunity, income, and a better future." He explained that even small investments could grow into something meaningful if combined with patience and effort. A few chickens had changed everything for his family, not because the chickens were magical, but because they represented action instead of fear. The old man's greatest message was simple but powerful. Dreams are important, but dreams alone are never enough. Real change begins when people take action, work consistently, and learn how to make even small opportunities grow over time. And that is the lesson his grandson never forgot.